Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Vice Versa, a series of interviews where I get to be the interviewer and ask questions to industry leaders who we admire here at Copenhagen Fashion Week. So, my guests in these series are people whom we're not only lucky to meet from time to time when they join us here in Copenhagen, but also people who are really putting their mark on the industry and really leaving us inspired and informed. Today I'm thrilled to be here with Julie Gilhart, who's the president of Tomorrow Projects and chief development officer of Tomorrow Limited. Hi, Julie.
Hey, Celia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So nice to see you again.
Same.
Yeah. So, but before we start, I would like to tell people who are tuning in a little bit more about you. Julie Gilhart is a legend. You are a see, I'm the one saying this. You are a leading fashion consultant, having worked with game-changing labels such as Jill Sander and Prada. In addition, you also work with emerging, promising brands from all over the world, helping them grow their businesses with a positive impact. Julie, and that's actually at the time where I got to know you. You were the Senior Vice President and Fashion Director of Barney's in New York. You were there for nearly 18 years, I believe. Yeah, bringing up and coming and new designers into the store. And you helped also launch the inaugural LVMH Prize for Emerging Talent back in 2013, I believe. Now we are lucky to have you as a mentor for the talent of the season of Copenhagen Fashion Week. You're also, I know the list is very long, but I'm going to take you through it anyway. But you're also a pioneer of sustainability and a frequent speaker and panelist on the topic. But I think, Julie, I've known you for about a decade. We got to know each other through Eva Kruse and I think Global Fashion Agenda. And I think what really strikes me is, besides your amazing career, obviously, and the impact that you've had, it's your beautiful spirit. You are always positive and you're always supportive. And I don't think I've ever seen you not smiling. So I'm very happy and I'm very honored to be here today with you, Julie. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for such a nice intro. It's interesting because the first time I came to Copenhagen, the Copenhagen Fashion Summit is where we met, was when it was COP 13.
Okay.
And now we're right in the middle of COP 26.
Yeah.
So, and I remember that Copenhagen had this big globe as a sort of a sculpture in the city, and that was just right after we had elected Obama as our president.
Yeah.
So it was such a benchmark year for so many things.
Yeah. So I said nearly a decade. So it's actually more than a decade because I believe that was back in 2009.
Yeah. But it was COP 13. I remember it was freezing cold. It was in December.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it was it was the beginning of a lot of things.
And you were a speaker at that summit, right?
Not at the COP 20.
No.
Not at COP 13, but actually I think that's when the Copenhagen Fashion Summit was, because I remember there being, I don't know, I remember there was something going on at the time.
Yeah. I think the first Copenhagen Fashion Summit was held in conjunction with the COP.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll have to let other people remind us of the facts and the hows and the whys. We were introduced to Julie Gilhart here in Copenhagen, but you've definitely managed to leave your mark on people around this city who have been lucky enough to meet you And obviously, you've been a big part in the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, and now Copenhagen Fashion Week, which is amazing. But Julie, I think my first question for you is, I listed some of the highlights maybe in your career, but how did you begin your career? What brought you into all of this?
I always had an eye for fashion, and it wasn't really about a girl that wanted to have a lot of clothes. I was just always interested in the design part of it. So that was just a natural, but it wasn't like I wanted to be in the fashion business. But I started my career in the fashion business as at a part-time summer job at Neiman Marcus in Texas, where I grew up in Dallas, Texas. And it was just a summer job. And it was actually at the time when Texas was going through an oil and gas boom and real estate boom. So, I mean, people were spending money on fashion and in stores. So, I was a salesperson on the selling floor, and so I just caught the bug, and I was able to interact with the different elements that I really liked. And so that just one thing led to another. I met someone who was actually was one of the most important buyers at the store, and I became her assistant. And she took me to Europe and showed me the ropes. So I was forever addicted. So that's how I got my start.
It sounds like it sounds a little bit like it doesn't sound like my path, but in the same way that you start out by having this fascination for the industry, but maybe which maybe quite quickly translates into like just a general interest. I myself, I've never been super like addictive to fashion, as the new trends and so forth, but I've always been so interested in like the structures and the dynamic of the industry. So it sounds like it was kind of the same that sparked the beginning of your journey here in fashion.
Yeah, it was. And also I was mentored by this amazing person who talked about a lot about ethics and authenticity, and not so much about her values were everything that was really real and substantial.
Mm.
So early on I heard a lot of that, and I think early on her words really affected the way I think about things now. Even
Yeah.
I mean, she gave me a few really good North Stars.
Is any words or anecdotes that you remember that you could share? Anything that we can benefit from?
Well, I think she told me that most people in the fashion business she wouldn't introduce to her family.
Okay, great.
But
Well,
I think that actually meant that she was that they wouldn't understand, because as we know, fashion is full of people that are very bold in the way they express themselves, and back then caricatures. Now we live in such an amazing, accepting kind of atmosphere overall.
Yeah.
But back then it was a little different. But I think she had a real eye on designers and what their background was and what their talent was. And she was very much about quality of product. So it didn't matter if the designer was well known or if it was a woman making sweaters in a small village in Italy. It was about the quality of the product always, and the creative spirit of the product and the design. So that was always a part of that. And then also relationships, that when you start with someone, you build a relationship. It's not in and out. And like you say, trends. it was really long lasting. Just like an artist, they go through different periods, and you stick with them because you know that they are inherently talented.
Yeah. That sounds like some really valuable advice you got from her. And that, I think that actually also leads me to one of my questions of today, because as I mentioned in the beginning, you've played a big part in the LVMH Prize for Emerging Talent, and now you're also a mentor in our talent initiative. So no doubt that emerging talent really plays a big role and has played a big role throughout your entire career. Could you elaborate a little bit more on why you think it's so important to support the future generation of fashion?
Yeah, I think because I mean it's in my personal DNA is I love to discover things. So that's just part of it. It's not because you're looking for someone to do a lot of business with, you're just really looking for talent. And so I was lucky enough to fall on the platform of Barney's when I did, because that was kind of what we all did at the store, is just look for talent. It wasn't we always thought if we could find the talent, the business would follow. So that was actually, we were able to hone all of our talents together over that expanse of 18 years of just doing that. And, I think it was also important for us because, or for people that we came across, because they were young in their careers. We had the power of being a store and a place where people look for new talent. And so they would listen to us. And it was great because we really cared about how they grew. And I always tell that to younger designers now, is that find your advocates. You can't assume someone's going to take care of you, but find people that really care about you. And that's actually, it's better to have fewer partners
When
than
you can
a
build
lot.
long-lasting relationships with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And back then it was interesting because we worked, the name of the game was exclusivity. So everyone was always racing to find someone, and then they would place an order, and then it would become something that was exclusive to that store for several seasons. But that no longer is the way good business is done. But I can look back and see that it was something that was helpful at a juncture of just being able to take care of someone and nurture them and be really close partners.
Yeah.
So that's how we built so many brands. We were exclusive in the beginning, and then as they got bigger, we couldn't really maintain that they had to grow. But it was those initial days, the initial growth part that was really important.
Yeah. And so what would be your best piece of advice for the next generation of fashion designers? What
Well,
let's say I'm a new designer and I really want to catch your attention, because I know that if I build a long-lasting relationship with Julie Gilhart, then my future is safe and sound. So what would your advice be for me?
I mean, I think I tend to be attracted to people who are their best selves. That they're completely themselves, that they know who they are, and that they have a passion for what they're doing. And it's really a passion that's inside. And that I mean, today we live in an environment where there's a lot of marketing, and that's really important. You can just build the facade of what you're thinking, but you have to have this deep rooted authenticity and passion for what you're doing. That it starts there. And then I think that you just have to that you are built. I always look for people that are building their business in the context of the planet, and that they care about the planet and all the beings on the planet. And that's actually going to build a better future.
Yeah.
So if there's someone who has that, of course, maybe I can't be the person to help them, but I'm happy to steer them in a direction.
Yeah.
And I also think it's so hard for kids now because there's so much choice and so many paths you can take. And so you
And
see so many,
so many easy, smart moves,
yeah,
and so many, tactics to follow. But
yeah. So it's really important to do the work of just knowing what you're really passionate about.
yeah,
And
and
that's the most important thing.
yeah, and how do you? Sorry, I keep going further and further into this, but how do you sense passion and authenticity? Like, how can you tell that it really comes from deep within?
I I
Is
mean,
it
for
gut feeling?
me, I think years and years of experience, there's a certain energy that people hold. And so you have feelings about it. You have gut reactions, you have instincts. They're not always right, but they're pretty much on target. You can just sense it. But then it all depends on how the person takes their path or journey. So that's why you stay close to someone just to see how they're doing.
I
But it's not
actually think I have a little anecdote that can support this, and this will also let people a little bit into the machinery of Copenhagen Fashion Week, perhaps. But Amalie Røge Hove, she was the talent of the season,
yeah.
of the summer edition of Fashion Week. And this is just, yeah, an anecdote to show that your gut feeling, actually, I think is pretty spot on, because you are a part of the show committee, but you are dedicated to the talent part of the schedule. So we asked you to review the show applications for the talent slot. And I think that we can reveal that Amalie Røgehove was, definitely, one of your favorites.
Mhm.
And parallel to that, process, we had the remaining part of the show committee also cast their votes, and Amalie Røgehove was likewise a favorite.
Mhm.
So your gut feeling, was, actually reflected by the broader, also sentiment of the show committee. And just to build on that, she had a very successful fashion show, and both the press coverage, but also some of the new leads, in terms of new, buyers. Was definitely, I think it was really overwhelming for her. So it was a very successful, show or a debut that she had. And furthermore, the other day, and I don't know if I've updated you, and if not, then I hope that Amelia has. But the other day there was, the biggest talent prize here in Denmark, that every year, picks out a couple of four finalists. It was this year, and the winner of this very prestigious award that has lived for almost a decade was Emilie Røgehove again. So I trust your gut feeling, Julie.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to. It never does. But yeah, no, I mean, there's
This,
so much talent in Copenhagen, and I honestly think that much of the reason why is because I think if you were to compare New York and Copenhagen, there's so many distractions in New York, 24/7. It's a huge city with a lot of people coming through it, and everything is going on 24/7. And it doesn't allow for quiet time of the brain or study time, or, there's so much distraction, and that's part of the learning process. But I think designers and talent need that kind of time. And I think you all have allowed that. And I think that's why you are so influential in the fashion business.
I'm
And
gonna, yeah.
everyone looks at the talent in Copenhagen. And yet you're a much smaller city than Milan or Paris or London or New York for that matter.
Yeah, I think maybe there's some truth to it. I actually haven't I haven't found the answer myself. It's probably also a mix of different, factors. Creating some, beneficial opportunities or circumstances for the emerging talent here. But there's definitely a booming scene in emerging talent here currently. There has been for many years, but I think it's quite exceptional these years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy that you're part of it, obviously. And Julie, I have another question for you, and I'm not really sure if it's fair, because it's one of the questions that I sometimes, I don't know, it's like a love and hate kind of question, because it's widely used, but it's about, what you think the future of fashion looks like. But I think it's interesting to hear from other people. I think I'm tired of hearing myself saying it, but I want to hear it from you then.
I mean, I've gotten to the point where I don't think we can predict the future. I mean, look what happened to us in the last 2 years. Who could have predicted that? It totally uprooted our whole industry. I mean, also the world. We could have never, ever predicted that or prepared for that. So I'm sort of like, I feel very strongly about taking care of what is present now, like doing the best you possibly can to, I mean, we're talking about fashion and emerging talent, to set a platform for younger people to develop in a great way. And the intention is, let's just do the best we possibly can do. And don't worry about the money or the business or anything like that. Just do the right action. And I think that the fact that no matter what it is, the future will take care. I just think we have to be more thoughtful, more responsible, more kind, more empathetic. I mean, right now we have an environmental crisis that is catamount. I mean, COP13 to COP26. If we had done all the things we talked about in COP13, we'd be in a different place right now. But we let business take us on this like fast path, and now we're really feeling the repercussions. And also we're feeling a lot in the area of mental wellness and health. I see so many of my colleagues really struggling, especially the most creative ones. So we really have a mental health crisis really kickstarted and brought
pandemic
in forefront by the pandemic, that we need to not treat, but we need to really address. And then also our climate crisis.
Yeah.
And so no matter what we do, we have to think about the way we do things and how we do things. And I don't think a lot of people talk about we have to reduce consumption. Yes, we do. But I think on a global platform, that's going to be really hard to do in the time that we need to do it, if it's even possible. So we have to figure out other ways.
Yeah.
And it's the intention. It starts with the intention, because, we have to keep strong to the intentions that we set out.
I think you're completely right that it requires the right mindset, and then of course followed very quickly by action, because we need urgent action right now. But it's definitely a question of having that mindset. So you're listing some quite serious challenges that we're struggling with in the fashion industry. And I don't know if I should interpret as you being pessimistic or optimistic about the future. What do you think about the future? Do you think we can do it?
Oh yeah, I'm so optimistic. I mean, if you look at the data, I mean, I think we all have to look at data, then we have to look at our heart and know what the thing is that you can't put down on paper. But if you look at, for instance, if you look at businesses that are resale, upcycle, recycle, all of that is that usually when there's a global crisis of some sort, the conversation on responsibility and sustainability or environmental, whatever you want to call it, usually kind of goes a little quieter. The opposite happened.
Yeah.
So it became in the forefront, it stayed in the forefront. And
And
I,
the whole thrifting market just
yes,
exploded during the pandemic. So yeah.
yes, and the trend of vintage is just as good as new, if not better. And and I have something, I can turn it into something else, and I can resell it. So it's this whole new way of thinking about how you shop. And women that have an urge for buying something new, they also have a place where they can, resell it. So in essence, if we think about no end of life
Yeah.
and think about how we're buying, there's so much that can happen. And the technology that's coming out is crazy. I mean, there's people that are taking used clothes and making furniture out of it, and the process is also sustainable. So all these like wild ideas, I think it's a time of super creativity and technology, and if we use that to our advantage, I'm really hopeful. I'm more hopeful now. And also, what's the point? We can't give up hope. We have to have that. I mean, that's 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 just something we can never give up ever. You're
And
not going to get negative. You'll get negative results from thinking negative, I have to
I would
say.
have been very surprised if your answer had been that you were pessimistic about the future and seeing everything in a super negative way. Then I think my whole intro of you being this very positive spirit would have been quite contradictory. I also I see you definitely as the optimistic person, and always, also, and that's also why you're so vocal about it in panels and in talks, and also via your own Instagram. I think you're conveying so many important messages, and in the media, of course. I really appreciate everything that you're doing, and I'm following you with also a big admiration, and I'm happy about the hope that you are also giving the rest of the industry.
Thank you, but also to you all too, because Copenhagen has always been a center of responsibility, whether it be fashion or food or design. So much of that I think it's like a gem,
Yeah, yeah,
and we need to study how you do it, how you live. Um, I mean, nothing's perfect, but the thing is, going back to young people, that if you're following, it's hard work. I mean, fashion is probably one of the most, you know, stressful
yeah.
businesses, and it's 24/7. So that's why it's really important that you follow your passion and you do your passion, because whatever it is, it takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But if you put hard work with passion, there's there's no end to what you can do.
No, exactly, exactly. Well, those are beautiful, beautiful words. I think to end the conversation, I'm not gonna try to comment or or add to it. Let's leave it with your words. And Julie, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
That was such a pleasure. What a wonderful way to start the morning. Thank
Oh,
you.
lovely. And a good way for me to end my workday. So without further ado, Julie, thank you so much for joining, and to everyone tuning in today, thank you so much for listening in. And I hope that you feel just as inspired and informed by Julie Gilhart as we do here in Copenhagen Fashion Week. So thank you.
Thank you.